In order to survive, a Jewish man pretended to be a Persian, coincidentally. A captain in the concentration camp wanted to learn Persian. Therefore, he was brought before the captain to verify his identity. The captain asked him to say something in his native language. Knowing nothing about Persian, he had to make something up on the spot. Fortunately, the captain was also completely ignorant of Persian. After randomly uttering some nonsense, he even poetically translated it for the captain. His fluent Persian temporarily dispelled the captain's doubts. Thus, he was assigned an easy job in the kitchen. During the day, he would work in the kitchen. After work, he would teach the captain Persian. However, the captain warned him clearly, "I hate being deceived more than anything in my life. If I find out you are lying to me, you will suffer a fate worse than death." Though terrified, at least he was still alive. Initially, he thought he could get away with just a casual verbal deception. Unexpectedly, the captain required him to teach at least 4 Persian words each day. Luckily, the captain knew nothing about Persian. Therefore, Gilles decided to invent a fake language to fool him. Yet, this was far from easy. Before teaching the captain, he had to memorize all the fabricated words himself. He needed to create words, and he needed to remember them clearly. Working in the kitchen, he could only quickly improvise. He drew inspiration from his surroundings: firewood, rice oil, salt sauce, vinegar, tea, pots, pans, bowls, melons, chickens, ducks, cows, sheep, pigs, butter, bread, knives, forks, from his mouth. These everyday items gained entirely new Persian names. Soon, he faced his first Persian lesson with the captain. At this moment, the captain openly explained his purpose for learning Persian. "I plan to open a restaurant in Tehran. After the war ends," it turned out. He had started working in kitchens at age 12. By 22, he was already a head chef. Every night, he served about 150 guests. He believed he could easily run a great restaurant. If he learned 4 Persian words per day now, he could learn over 1,000 words in a year, and more than 2,000 words in 2 years. He estimated World War II would last at most 2 more years, no matter who won or lost. By then, his vocabulary would be enough to open a restaurant. The first word they learned was bread lunch. After that, one dared to teach, the other dared to learn. The captain studied enthusiastically, while Gilles' creativity dried up. He never imagined being a teacher would require so much brain power to pass off the lies. He practiced repeatedly every night before sleep. Unexpectedly, he was caught by the dormitory guard, claiming that he was praying in Persian. He narrowly escaped suspicion. From then on, he worried every day about inventing 4 new words. He thought this was trouble enough already, but even bigger trouble was yet to come. The captain soon discovered that he had greatly underestimated his own talent for languages. Learning 4 words per day was far too easy. One day he listed 40 German words at once. He demanded that Gilles translate all of them into Persian, and told Gilles that he would come to test him in a few hours. Hearing this, Gilles was stunned. Inventing 40 words would be easy, but memorizing them was nearly impossible. This time, Gilles felt certain he was doomed. Now his only solution was to escape as quickly as possible. Unexpectedly, someone else provided him a perfect opportunity. Ever since Gilles became the captain's teacher, the captain had noticed that his handwriting was quite good. Meanwhile, the handwriting of the female assistant who handled the prisoner registration was extremely terrible. Therefore, the captain decided to have Gilles replace her to manage the prisoner registration. This deeply upset the female assistant. However, she dared not show anger in front of the captain. Instead, she vented her frustration on Jewish prisoners working in the kitchen. Once she felt that a prisoner's hands were not clean enough, she pressed him directly onto a burning hot iron plate. When her admirer, a guard nicknamed Little Bad, learned about this, he immediately went to the captain to plead on her behalf. He claimed he grew up among Jews and could immediately tell if someone was Jewish or not. He insisted Gilles was definitely a fake Persian. These words greatly angered the captain. "Do you think you are smarter than me? Do I need you to teach me how to judge people? You were the one who exchanged meat cans for him a few days ago. Now you have finished eating the cans and suddenly claim he is fake. Do you think I am a 3-year-old monkey?" The captain's scolding deeply frustrated Little Bad. He swore he would find a way to eliminate Gilles permanently. After some discussion, he and the female assistant came up with a perfect plan. Soon Little Bad volunteered to escort Gilles outside the camp to dispose of garbage. Pretending to enjoy the scenery, he deliberately allowed Gilles to escape. Nobody had ever escaped the concentration camp alive. So Little Bad was certain Gilles would die along the way. Gilles believed this was his heaven-sent opportunity. He immediately fled into the forest. Even the mist seemed full of hope. Suddenly, an elderly soldier in the sunlight shouted at him. From this French soldier, Gilles learned that eastward was a minefield, westward was a swamp. He could only rely on his legs. but the German soldiers chasing him would have vehicles. The old soldier advised him to return. After all, it was better to live miserably than die quickly. Eventually, Gilles followed the soldier's advice. He pushed the cart and returned to the concentration camp. Little Bad and the female assistant were shocked to see him alive and returning voluntarily. When Gilles returned, the captain brought him directly to the office. His new job was to copy the list of Jewish prisoners. The captain repeatedly emphasized the strict formatting requirements, but Gilles had no time to think about that. His mind was completely preoccupied with Persian vocabulary. By sunset, he had not invented a single word, just when he felt hopeless. The list in his hands gave him inspiration. A bold idea suddenly took root in his mind. He used parts of the Jewish prisoners' names as roots, and managed to compile the required 40 words just before the captain arrived for inspection. Seeing Gilles' neatly written lists, the captain was deeply impressed. He praised Gilles' handwriting highly, and Gilles submitted all 40 words successfully, but the captain was not fully satisfied. He demanded to personally verify the words. Luckily, the original list was right in front of Gilles. By secretly glancing at the names, he smoothly passed the test, to memorize the words more firmly. Gilles called out these names daily when distributing meals. Gradually, these names combined with his first impressions became even more new vocabulary. Repeating Gilles' invented language daily, the captain felt immense joy from his learning. 6 months passed quickly. The captain had already mastered over 600 Persian words. Soon the entire concentration camp learned about the captain's study of Persian. Naturally, this drew the commander's attention. He summoned the captain to his office and directly asked whether the captain intended to defect. Hearing this, the captain panicked. He quickly denied it. He explained that his brother was in Tehran. He was just learning the language in advance to reunite with his brother after the war. Is loving to study a crime. The commander became furious. He felt the captain's actions implied surrender before the war ended. If everyone were as determined as you in learning Persian, Germany could move its capital to Moscow. Fortunately, the commander offered him a chance to show loyalty. A team-building party was coming soon. He assigned the captain to handle food and drink arrangements. Knowing he was in trouble, the captain reluctantly agreed. On the day of the party, everyone enjoyed singing, dancing, and drinking. In high spirits, the captain casually asked Gilles how to say sunrise in Persian. Realizing something was wrong, Gilles quickly explained that the word had multiple meanings, but the captain, who felt deceived, angrily grabbed him in a painful embrace. The louder the officers laughed at the scene, the tighter the captain squeezed. Fortunately, the captain did not kill Gilles. Instead, he sent Gilles to the harsh market area, under the strict supervision of Little Bad, to slowly torture him. Shooting him would be too quick. Slow torture was much more satisfying. Within days, Gilles' weak body collapsed from exhaustion. In a near-death delirium, he kept repeating his fabricated Persian. If Little Bad had supervised him, Gilles would have had no chance. But luckily, Little Bad had gone on a date with the female assistant, leaving a colleague in charge. The colleague still remembered the 8 cans of meat owed to him. Previously, the captain had promised 10 cans of meat to anyone who found him a Persian speaker. But fearing Gilles might be fake, the captain initially paid only 2 cans. The rest would be paid after verification. Seeing Gilles deliriously muttering incomprehensible words, the colleague called the captain. Only the captain, who studied Persian, could understand him. Surprisingly, the captain did understand. Gilles said he wanted to go home to his mother. The captain believed unconscious people spoke their true language. Had he wrongly suspected Gilles? He immediately ordered Gilles transferred to the medical station. The colleague who saved Gilles finally received his remaining 8 cans of meat, plus a bottle of fine wine. Driven by a strong desire to live, Gilles managed to survive. Under careful care from the captain and doctors, Gilles quickly regained health. But mental scars remained forever. Life would never be the same again. To express his apology, the captain gave Gilles his old coat. He hoped Gilles would accept this gesture. This time, the captain officially saw Gilles as his teacher. Now Gilles gained confidence, speaking to the captain as a real teacher. He taught that tree and bread were the same word in Persian. He often initiated conversations, patiently reminding the captain whenever he struggled. Gradually, they grew closer. They communicated in their unique language like encrypted messages. Finally, the captain revealed his deepest feelings. He had lost his mother at 3 years old. His disabled father could barely move. Their family survived by selling hot water. They often had nothing but cabbage and potatoes to eat. He wanted to avoid hunger in adulthood. That was why he became a chef. Hidden memories slowly emerged through Persian. If not for their opposing positions, they could have been good friends. Then the captain informed Gilles that tomorrow he would send him to a farm to hide temporarily. Gilles immediately understood that a large number of Jewish prisoners were going to be executed. The next day, prisoners began to gather. Meanwhile, Gilles was openly escorted out of the camp and sent to the farm. The captain's blatant favoritism quickly aroused suspicion. Taking this chance, the female assistant reported to the commander. She accused the captain of secretly keeping a male lover and treating prisoners kindly. The commander came personally to question him, but the captain calmly pulled out his trump card. He pointed out that gossip existed everywhere in the army. He subtly hinted to the commander about a rumor. It turned out the female assistant once had secret relations with the commander to secure promotion. After becoming intimate with Little Bad, she recklessly discussed the commander's private details publicly. Unfortunately, Little Bad's ex-girlfriend overheard this conversation. Seeking revenge, she secretly reported it to the captain. Now the captain deliberately mentioned to the commander, "They claimed your brother needed a magnifying glass to be found. Of course, I think this is malicious slander." Hearing this, the commander quickly agreed. "Both of us are victims of rumors." The commander knew exactly who spread the gossip. His revenge came swiftly. A few days later, he used his authority to transfer the female assistant to the front line as cannon fodder. Little Bad's ex-girlfriend replaced her previous position. Soon after, the captain announced that prisoners would be transferred to Poland. Gilles knew the truth clearly. They would end up either in gas chambers or mass graves. Fortunately, the captain intervened again. Once more, Gilles was sent to the farm to hide for a while. A few days later, the captain would find another way to retrieve him. The next day, Gilles left the camp amidst the sound of German counting and gunshots. At the farm, Gilles rolled in the muddy fields. He slept on straw piles and ate raw potatoes, but at least he survived. When Gilles returned to the camp, Little Bad blocked his path. Little Bad wanted revenge for the female assistant, mockingly calling Gilles a fake Persian cat with 7 lives. Gilles showed no reaction and calmly walked past him. Eventually, Little Bad dared not shoot. He cherished his own life and feared angering the captain. At this moment, the camp was filled with numbness, reflecting Gilles' inner peace, which was terribly calm. Even the dormitory was empty. Those who once provided names to Gilles' vocabulary were now on their way to Poland, becoming black smoke from the crematorium chimneys rising toward a heaven they could never reach. Gilles picked up a rag doll from the ground. He tore off the name and defined this word as life. Days later, new Jewish prisoners arrived at the camp. Life here repeated endlessly. Gilles returned to kitchen duties, distributing food and creating Persian words from their names. He mechanically repeated these tasks daily, as if this routine would never end. As the war neared its end, the captain grew increasingly passionate about Persian. He often marveled at the beauty of this language. He did not realize these pleasant-sounding words were chosen lovingly by parents for their children's names. One day, he proudly presented Gilles with a poem composed entirely from the words he had learned. "The wind blows the clouds eastward to a land where souls yearn for peace. I know happiness awaits me where the clouds drift." After Gilles praised him, the captain served him a sumptuous meal as thanks. Gilles requested to take the food back to his dormitory. Realizing Gilles' intention to share the food, the captain gave him extra meat cans and bread. Only then did Gilles eat comfortably. At night, Gilles shared the food with 2 brothers in his dormitory. The younger brother was mute and poor at physical labor. After accidentally falling earlier in the day, German guards severely beat him. His older brother was beaten trying to protect him. Witnessing this, Gilles decided to help others rather than just himself. His silent kindness deeply touched the older brother. Soon, a group of new prisoners arrived at the camp. When Little Bad discovered a genuine Persian among them, he was thrilled. Immediately, he burst into the kitchen and seized Gilles, confident that Gilles would soon be exposed by confronting the real Persian. Yet when they found the Persian prisoner, he had already been killed. Furious, Little Bad grabbed Gilles, demanding to know who killed the Persian. Unexpectedly, the older brother stepped forward holding the bloodied weapon. He confessed to killing the Persian because the Persian threatened Gilles' safety. Gilles' survival ensured his mute brother's survival. Enraged, Little Bad beat the older brother until he was vegetative. Thus, the older brother traded his life to save Gilles and his brother. Meanwhile, German forces received orders to transfer prisoners immediately. The railroad tracks had been bombed by Allied aircraft. All prisoners and guards had to walk to the next station. That same night, a drunken captain visited Gilles. He had heard about the Persian's murder and comforted Gilles. He expressed sadness. The 3 of us could have happily talked together like brothers. Now his Persian practice had ended abruptly. Perhaps his grief stirred memories of his lost brother. Long ago, the captain and his brother parted ways. His brother went to Tehran and they lost contact. Gilles did not respond. He said he felt tired and fearful. The captain jokingly offered 20 meat cans, betting that Gilles would remain safe. He reminded Gilles he would hide at the farm again tomorrow. Late at night, while others slept, Gilles wore the mute brother's coat. He gave his survival chance to the mute brother. Tomorrow morning, he would join the prisoners on the destined road. The next day, Gilles blended into the crowd headed for the station. A German officer spotted him and praised the captain for finally abandoning the Muslim lover. Teasing the captain during breakfast, the officer inadvertently alarmed him. The captain immediately chased after the prisoner group. Quickly finding Gilles, he dragged him from the line. Guards stopped him, saying he needed orders from the commander. The captain drew his pistol, threatening the guard. "My bullet moves faster than the commander's orders." Terrified, the guard backed off. Gilles calmly watched the confrontation. When the captain questioned why Gilles would die for these nobodies, Gilles firmly replied, "Everyone has a name. You never cared about them. They are no worse than you. At least they are not murderers. You did not kill directly but fed the executioners well. That makes you an accomplice." Speechless, the captain admitted he was only following orders and controlling what he could. Gilles accepted the inevitable fate approaching him. As the German army retreated, American forces advanced into France. Orders from Berlin instructed them to evacuate immediately. They must destroy all documents and execute all prisoners to leave no evidence. Knowing defeat was near, the captain prepared civilian clothes to escape. Before leaving, he took Gilles with him. Little Bad witnessed this and reported to the commander, but now everyone sought personal survival. The commander dismissed him. Soon the captain and Gilles bypassed minefields and parted ways in the forest. The captain planned to reach Tehran via Istanbul airport using a fake Belgian passport. Gilles watched him disappear, knowing their friendship ended there. They would never meet again. Not long afterward, the captain successfully arrived at the Istanbul airport. Now all countries strictly inspected fleeing German soldiers. Therefore, the captain used a forged passport, listing Belgium as his nationality. Pretending not to understand German, he confidently spoke fluent Persian. He believed that after 2 years of intensive study, passing the border check would be effortless. But unexpectedly, no one there understood his words. Of course, he also failed to comprehend their questions, because the language he learned was not real Persian. Instead, every word he memorized was actually the name of one of the 2,840 Jewish prisoners. Coincidentally, the customs officers' badges bore the Persian national emblem. Airport security became suspicious of his behavior and swiftly detained him. Realizing something was wrong, the captain desperately tried to escape, but was quickly subdued. Meanwhile, Gilles had been brought to a post-war registration center. Because the Germans destroyed all prisoner records, the officers asked Gilles approximately how many prisoners had been held in the camp, and whether he could remember any of their names. Surprisingly, Gilles not only knew that around 30,000 prisoners had passed through the camp, but also accurately recalled the first and last names of 2,840 prisoners. The officers were stunned and believed this impossible, yet Gilles recited name after name. As he spoke, tears streamed down his face. Finally, his numb soul found release. At this moment, he felt transported back to the concentration camp. He vividly remembered each prisoner who had lived alongside him. They were no longer mere Persian words. They were real names, each bearing scars and pain. They were neither burned away by fire nor lost in the tide of history. Instead, they remained eternal wounds. Persian Lessons is a 2020 war drama film directed by Vadim Perelman, starring Lars Eidinger and Nahuel Perez Biscayart. Inspired by true events, the film shows us that when lies become salvation, words become our last line of resistance. The film's cruelty lies in how it strips away war's false appearances. In the concentration camp, life was reduced to mere numbers. Humanity was distorted into tools. Yet even in this abyss, Gilles ignited humanity's flame using an imaginary Persian language. Every word he invented was a tribute to fellow prisoners' lives. His trembling voice before the Nazi captain reflected a battle between survival instinct and conscience. When lies become the only tool for survival, we see not only intelligence, but also the weak clinging fiercely to dignity amidst desperation. Although the captain never personally killed anyone, he was far from innocent. Had he paid slight attention to the prisoner lists, he would have realized Gilles created the Persian words from names. Yet from beginning to end, he never seriously examined the lists. His silence made him complicit in the horrors of war. The film's most powerful message lies precisely in this irony. Gilles crafted Persian words from Jewish prisoners' names. Seemingly absurd lies became an epic resistance against forgetting. Each invented word served as an epitaph for lives erased by the Nazis. Each conversation in Persian class left hidden testimonies for history. When Gilles fluently recited 2,840 names at the end, language transcended mere survival to become a moral judgment against tyranny. He proved truth might be buried but could never truly vanish. Gilles' transformation represents humanity's deepest prophecy. From initially lying only to survive to ultimately awakening and willingly facing death, he evolved from survivor to guardian of memory. This journey prompts us to consider life's true meaning. Perhaps significance comes not from how long we live, but from how we define our existence. As symbolized by the film's recurring word, life survival instinct matters greatly, but only by integrating individual lives into collective memory. can we transcend fear and achieve spiritual freedom? The film contains no grand battle scenes, yet its linguistic fragments vividly reveal humanity's darkest depths and brightest stars. It reminds us during history's darkest moments, words can become the sharpest weapon. In peaceful times, we must remain vigilant. When language becomes violence's accomplice and memories are selectively forgotten, that creates a true concentration camp. At the film's conclusion, among the ashes, 2,840 names shimmer like stars. They are our solemn promise to remember and honor life itself. All right, this concludes today's film sharing. Please remember to like, comment, and share. I am Shark. Looking forward to our next encounter.